Hi, I'm Luxadream, and this is my submission for one of the oldest classic roguelikes, NetHack. This is a run that I did about a week ago. Just a pretty average run, but something that I would be able to do in a race format. And I am the world record holder for NetHack, actually. I have a time of 52 minutes and 51 seconds. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. So we actually have a lot to talk about here, so I'll start with a brief history of what NetHack is. Like I said, NetHack is one of the oldest roguelike games. It's released in 1987, I believe. So it's actually a direct descendant of Rogue, so Rogue begot Hack, and Hack begot NetHack, a fork of Hack that was developed over the internet, so internet plus hack equals NetHack. And in NetHack, you play as an adventurer who has been having strange dreams of late. And you know that you are fated to enter the Dungeons of Doom to acquire the Amulet of Yender, a mystical artifact, and give it to your god, or die in the attempt. We will, well, most likely die in the attempt. But since this is a speedrun, we don't plan on dying. So, in order to do that, we enter the dungeon with our trusty +1 longsword, +3 small shield, usually a pet, but we don't have a pet today because we're speedrunning and the pet actually will slow us down quite a bit. Otherwise, it would probably be a donation incentive to name the pet. But in NetHack, you can see that the graphics might look a little dated. That's because everything is an ASCII character. You see like most of these symbols, like the punctuation and stuff, the exclamation marks, the question marks, those represent items like scrolls and potions, and the letters represent monsters that are trying to kill me. For example, that gray O that I just rolled over there was a goblin. But I am the white @ sign, and our goal is to make it down to dungeon level, around dungeon level 50, give or take, and get the Amulet of Yendor for our god. So right now, I guess I can explain the different stats and the things that you're seeing there on the bottom. NetHack is based on AD&D, so it's a pretty old version of D&D. But you can see, if you're familiar with D&D, you can probably see some of the stats. Probably looks familiar to you, like strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. So we start with very high strength, above 18 in fact. That's 18 plus 1%, and that's a constitution of 18, so that's very close to the cap, the maximum possible stats for those. So we care about those because those let us carry more items. Speaking of the items in this game, you might see, like on the right, is my inventory. So you can see I have some scrolls and potions in my inventory. I only know them by color. That's because, like I said, NetHack is a roguelike game, so all of the... I don't actually know what the items do. Like, the scroll called Freebie Bletch could be a scroll of Identify, it could be a scroll of Create Monster, it could be anything, and the dungeons are actually randomly generated as well. So going in, I don't know anything yet, but there might be someone in the dungeons who knows more than me, so well, we'll see how that goes. But part of the run is getting better items and then using them in a controlled fashion. Like once we have more information and know what they are. But getting better items is the main way we're going to make our character stronger, because leveling up in NetHack actually increases the difficulty of monsters that you face as well. So you need to be a little bit strategic about it. We can't just dive down to the bottom of the dungeon right away. That would be pretty much suicide. But yeah, like I said, we're on dungeon level 5 now, but the amulet is somewhere around dungeon level 50. We've got a lot of dungeon delving to go. But first we need to do some of the optional branches in the main dungeon. Still, there are two, actually. One is called Sokoban, and the other is called the Gnomish Mines. I'll talk more about them once we get a little bit closer. But we're coming up on the shop here. You can see that there's another white @ that's the shopkeeper, and there's lots of left brackets in there, which is armor. So very useful shop for me because as a Valkyrie, I have a very high carrying capacity, so I can wear very heavy armor. That banded mail is a very heavy armor in particular. But the way that shops work in NetHack is they're kind of like shops in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. You have the items are strewn out on the floor, and the shopkeeper blocks you until you pay for the items, or steal them, or kill him in some way. Obviously, he's a rather difficult opponent. If you try to steal from him, he'll summon more monsters, kind of like a mystery dungeon as well. So, in this run, we're not going to mess with him quite just yet. The more important thing about shopkeepers is there are the people who know more about the dungeon than we do, so we're going to take advantage of that a little bit later. But that guy only sells armor, so he only knows about armor, and generally armor is pretty unambiguous, so it's not too difficult for us to figure out what armor is. For example, I wore a pair of speed boots, and they made me speed up so that I know they're speed boots. It's pretty obvious. So just going through the dungeon here, going pretty deep down, you can see that I've gained a few levels at this point. At the bottom of the screen, you can see the XP 6/361. That's my experience level 6 and 361 experience points. So here so that's actually a really important benchmark for us because at level 5 or higher, we can dip our sword into a fountain and potentially obtain an artifact from the Lady of the Lake. And that's another reason why we played the character that we did, because lawful characters are able to obtain this artifact. The artifact Excalibur does an extra D10 damage and protects us from level draining attacks. So very useful. But we're heading close to the first dungeon branch here. There are two totally optional dungeon branches here. They're called Sokoban and the Gnomish Mines. We're coming up on Sokoban here. So Sokoban is Japanese for warehouse keeper. It's a very unique style of puzzle game. In the original game, you would push crates into like goal areas to like clean up the warehouse. But in NetHack, the NetHack equivalent of it is pushing boulders into holes to so that you can you can then walk over the holes and then make your way forward into the next level. So it's a very unique branch. I've never seen anything like it in any other roguelike. And it's actually not procedurally generated. There are only a few possible levels, so we shouldn't have too much trouble. I think I would have a lot of difficulty with procedurally generated levels. Like, you can see here, the zeros are the boulders, and the caret signs, those are the pits. And we can actually do a little bit of a skip here. Since this first level doesn't have holes, it has pits, we can walk through the pits here and just skip most of the first level. But a bit of bad RNG here. We got the worst layout for the second level. There are 2 possible puzzle layouts for each level. But the reason that we're here is we're actually looking for an item. At the end of this branch, there's a prize, and the prize is either an amulet of reflection or a bag of holding. Now, the amulet of reflection is a very powerful item, because if you've heard anything about NetHack, you've heard about the wand of death and how it tends to kill adventurers. It does exactly what it says on the tin, actually. It kills people. But with the amulet of reflection on, whenever something zaps a wand of death at us, we'll actually bounce it right back at the caster. So, extremely useful. And the other item, a bag of holding, is also quite useful because we can only carry so many items. We have a limit to the number of items we can carry in our inventory. There can only be 1 item per letter. So with the bag of holding, we can carry more items, and also it will protect our items, since items inside the bag can't be destroyed by fire or cold. For example, if we got hit by a fire attack, normally all of our scrolls would burn up, and we wouldn't want that. So getting done with these last few boulders here, there's a little bit of a shortcut there. In NetHack, they're actually quite a bit more forgiving than the original Sokoban game, because in the original Sokoban game you got exactly the number of boulders to fill the goals, but in NetHack they give you slightly more boulders because they know that monsters can still spawn in these levels and give you a lot of trouble. And in NetHack, there are also pretty creative ways to cheat. For example, if you're polymorphed into a giant, NetHack lets you become any monster, which can be very interesting, but I don't think we're going to see it in this run because we're a Valkyrie, we're already pretty strong. Stronger than a lot of monsters, actually. But if you polymorph into a giant, you can actually just straight up pick up the boulders. But there's a slight penalty for doing things like that, like picking up boulders or breaking them with the pickaxe and stuff like that, because the devs don't want you cheating, but a small amount of cheating is tolerated. These puzzles don't actually reset, so you can kind of, if you mess up, you can kind of get yourself in a bad position. So to combat that, like for example, if you mess up so badly that you don't have enough boulders at all, the devs give you 2 scrolls of earth, which I'm still carrying right now. So those scrolls in red, they actually create more boulders, and that would allow you to complete the level no problem. This is the 3rd level. We should be coming up on the 4th and last level of this branch right now, so it's very short, thankfully. Won't waste too much of our time doing it. If we didn't do this, then later we would have to probably wish for the item that we didn't get here, so spending a few minutes on an item that we would otherwise need to wish for is great in my book. But another bit of bad RNG here. This is, again, the worst layout, but it has a 75% chance of a bag of holding, and I like bags of holding, so... I believe this level is actually copied from a real Sokoban game, but I'm not sure if I remember that correctly. But at the end of this Sokoban level, you can see that there's no stairs. There's not another staircase up. There's actually a big room full of monsters there. And they're all sitting on gold pieces, and it would be really dangerous if we weren't a Valkyrie. And the Valkyrie actually has some special properties. Due to our role choice, we actually have cold resistance because Valkyries are from the north, and so they're resistant to cold. They're just so used to it. And they're also stealthy for reasons I do not completely understand, but the stealth is what helps us here. Because all the monsters in there are going to be generated sleeping, so we can just sneak in there, like all quiet-like, and beat them over the head with our blessed rest-proof +1 Excalibur. You can also see there's a lot of percent signs on the ground here. There's a lot of guaranteed food here to make sure the player doesn't starve, but we're nowhere near starving. You see we have 8 food rations even. One of the things I do a lot in this run is I eat a lot of enemy corpses. You need to be really careful doing this, especially if you're a new player, because a lot of enemy corpses are good, a lot of enemy corpses are bad, and some of them we're going to eat a lot because we need to try and get resistances, and some of them can randomly award you with resistances with a very small percentage chance. But we actually pick up one of the most important items there in the run, a pickaxe. So the pickaxe is going to let us do a lot of skips. The pickaxe can dig through walls, and not only can it do that, it can also dig through the floor. So later we're going to use that to completely skip levels that we do not want to explore. So the only problem is it's heavy. It weighs about 1/10 of what we can carry, so gonna have to make room for that. But if we get a bag of holding, that should be no problem. Taking a bit of damage here. These monsters are more threatening than I expected. You can see some blue A. Those are soldier ants. They're notorious for doing massive damage to and killing adventurers, but fortunately we're fine. Because we have our nice artifact weapon. We also have an armor class of -2, so that's actually a pretty good armor class for this point in the game. NetHack's, like I said, NetHack is based on AD&D, so we have a very old system of armor class as well. It starts at 10 and then goes down. So an AC of -2 would be what would it be? It would be like 22 in normal in D&D now. So that's it's not a lot. An average character in NetHack that ascends or beats the game will have an AC out of around -25. But since we're speedrunning, we don't have the time or the resources to do that. But we find another shop here, and I'm doing something. I'm naming a lot of my items. What I did was I dropped them on the floor to sell them to the shopkeeper. I'm taking note of the price because the shopkeeper actually knows what the items are. So the price that he offers to buy them from me is very important because it can narrow down what the item actually is. I'm most interested in the items that are the rings that are called 150 because that's the highest possible price that he can offer for a ring, and that obviously that contains the most valuable rings. It has the ring of conflict in that price category, which can make enemies fight each other, which is great because even though we pick the strongest roll, we're not going to be super strong by the time we get down to the bottom of the closer to the bottom of the dungeon because we're speedrunning and there's very little we can do about that. But we enter the second branch here, the Gnomish Mines. You can see a definite change in the level generation. Big open cavernous levels filled with gnomes, hobbit, and some dwarves. So we're not actually going to complete this branch. We're going to go to the middle. The middle has a special level called Mine Town, which has several shops and a priest tending an altar. So this is the first time we're going to interact with NetHack's religion system at all. So that's actually a chaotic altar. You can see by the black color of the altar, the underscore. But I'm standing on it, and what altars can do, even if they're not co-aligned with you, for example, I'm lawful and the altar is chaotic, I can still drop items on the altar. And it will tell me whether the items are blessed, cursed, or uncursed. And that's great because I don't want to wear cursed items. Those are often quite harmful. But checking out the remainder of the shop here, I'm taking interest in these 7 candles. So in order to get the Amulet of Yender at the bottom of the dungeon, we actually need 3 other items. We need the Candelabrum of Invocation, the Bell of Opening, and the Book of the Dead. So the Candelabrum of Invocation doesn't actually come with candles, so we need to get candles early. That'll save a few seconds later. There are other places with guaranteed candles, of course, but we don't want to have to pick those up, so this will definitely save time. So a little more about the dungeon structure. So we have we have the 2 sub branches that we've seen already, but we have about 20 levels of the regular dungeon until we come across Gehenna, which is NetHack hell. It consists of one tile wide mazes, so it really is hell. But more notably, it's very dangerous, so we don't want to go there until we're quite prepared. So that'll be much later into the run, but that's where 2 of the invocation items are, the items that we need to win the game. So the 2 items that are there are the Book of the Dead and the Candelabrum of Invocation. One of the items is actually in the main dungeon, though, the Bell of Opening. So here I'm returning to this armor shop. I'm taking interest in this Dwarvish Mithril coat because it's a lot lighter than the armor that I have right now, the Banded Mail, but I don't have enough money to pay for it, so I zap the shopkeeper with a Wand of Cold, and that's actually enough to kill him because the Wand of Cold does 6d6 damage. I think that's average 21. You can check me on that. But since it bounced off the wall, it hit him twice per zap, and he only has about 40 or 50 HP, if I had to guess. So he dies pretty quickly. The game did call me a murderer there. That actually has an in-game effect, but I'm not too concerned about it. It's mostly affects your in-game luck, and that will time out shortly. In-game luck is not going to be something that we will mess with a lot here. Usually it's quite important on other rolls, but it's most important in increasing your accuracy. But since we're already pretty much deadly accurate, like I said, not going to worry too much about it. So now that we've completed the 2 main sub-branches, we have 2 possible destinations for our character. Like I said, the Bell of Opening is actually accessible from the main dungeon. It's in a branch called the Quest, and the Quest it's a role dependent thing, so it'll be different for whatever one of the 13 roles that you picked. But since we picked Valkyrie, our fellow Valkyries have called us back because Someone stole the crystal ball that Odin uses to see the future, and they need us to kill him. So they call us back from the dungeon using a magic portal. But more importantly, the guy who did that, he actually he also has the bell of opening by sheer coincidence. Why he has it, we don't know. But if we go to the quest, we can recover the first item we need to win. Unfortunately, though, in order to enter the quest, we actually need to be level 14 because otherwise the Valkyries will deem us unworthy and then kick us out. So right now we're only XP level 9. You can see XP 9 slash 3208 experience points. In order to level up to level 14, we would need to be here for quite a while, actually, because the number of experience points needed actually doubles per level. So here's another interesting shop. There's a lot of items that I want in there, but the shopkeeper zaps me with a wand of lightning because I pissed him off. But I think a little bit quickly on my feet here, and I snap my wand of cold in half, and that releases all the magic at once. And that is enough to instantly kill him, and since I am cold resistant due to being a Valkyrie, I survive the blast, and he dies. That actually does massive damage, and it's a pretty underutilized strategy. It's not... it's documented on the wiki, but I see very few players using it, and I think it's quite strong. So just gathering up all the loot here. I'm a murderer again, but that's okay. No permanent consequences there. I just need to make sure not to pray to my god in the meantime, and I don't think I will be needing any praying because I am pretty strong. I have a pair of gauntlets of power, I have a pair of speed boots, and I have a dwarvish mithril coat, so looking great. But here, I'm going to use a pickaxe because I don't want to find the downstairs, it's going to take a while. Use a pickaxe to skip a level there. We're going to use the pickaxe to skip more levels later, but the second possible destination for our character, if we can't go to the quest, is right between the border of the dungeon and hell, somewhere around dungeon level 23 or 24, if I had to guess. So that is where the castle is, and the castle is a stronghold guarded by many, many powerful monsters. And what are they guarding? Well, they're guarding a wand of wishing. And a wand of wishing does exactly what it says on the tin. It lets you make wishes. Getting a wish means you get to obtain potentially any item in the game, actually. There are some limitations, of course, to artifacts and the like, and you can't wish for the Amulet of Yender, so really unfortunate. Not going to get to do that. But you get 5 to 7 wishes, and we can potentially use one of those wishes to gain levels. And I'll explain how when we get there. It looks like I found an untended altar here. If you recall, the altar back in Minetown was actually tended by a priest. There was a priest there watching over the altar, another white at, but there's no one here, so I can actually convert the altar to my god. And then once I drop some potions of water on it, I can pray. And praying with the potions of water on the floor on the altar will give me holy water. And remember that I said that cursed items can be quite dangerous, but if I have holy water, I can just dip the item into the holy water, and that removes the curse. So one of the most powerful items in NetHack is water. It's crazy how in a game with so much fantasy, we have the most mundane items being powerful. There are other things that are strong, of course, like the tinning kit, the skeleton key, things that can exist in real life. But dropping my items here again on the altar just to check if they're cursed or not. Like I said, the altar can check the blessed, uncursed, cursed status of items if I drop them onto it. Looks like I've got a cursed, polished silver shield. So the polished silver shield actually functions as a shield of reflection. So it functions similarly to an amulet of reflection. It'll reflect death rays, fire rays, lightning rays, things I don't want to be hit by back at the caster. That'll protect me against most sources of instant death. And if you're wondering if instant death makes this run not marathon safe, well, it does, in a sense, but I have backup saves at every important breakpoint in this run. So we will get to show off the game no matter what, and the chance of instant death is actually extremely rare. So, and like I said, we already have protection from it, from the polished silver shield. But with proper speedrunning tactics, we shouldn't run into that. I don't expect to, but if we do, then I am also adequately prepared. Alright, we're actually going straight towards the castle here. So this is dungeon level 23. We should be coming up in the castle soon, but before that, this is Medusa's lair. It's filled with water, and it has Medusa in it, who's kind of a mini-boss. Looks like we won't be seeing her for now because we just dig past her level with the pickaxe. And here we are on dungeon level 27, the border between the dungeon and hell at the castle. So I have a ring of conflict. The Ring of Conflict makes enemies fight each other, so there are a lot of powerful enemies here. They all busy themselves killing each other, I hope. So I bust down the drawbridge and get right to work. Looks like I'm not too strong, though. As you can see, I got knocked down to HP 27 out of 85, pretty low. If I stayed in there and fought, I probably would have died. See some pretty powerful monsters here. The X's are Zorns. They can phase through walls and hit fairly hard. Trolls can hit for 20 odd damage per turn, so they're also quite threatening. And there was also a Lich in there. You can see the brown L running around, a very dangerous spellcaster. Can destroy your armor, summon even more monsters. So I want to take care of that guy, but he seems fairly distracted, so I'm able to slip past him here. And this is the throne room, and actually sitting on the throne using #sit, the extended command, because like I said, not every command in NetHack fits on the keyboard. So we have to type in the names of some of them. Right, so sitting on the throne again, and I actually get a genocide, and it's quite a morbid name, but it lets us permanently remove one monster from the game. And I choose to remove energy vortexes because they can destroy our wands and rings, and I would like to keep my Ring of Conflict because that's a very important item for us later in the game as well. But there's a chest here under a scroll, and it's the Wand of Wishing, so I now have the Wand of Wishing. Doing some inventory management here, but with the Wand of Wishing we should be able to enter the quest and get the first of the 3 items we need to unlock the final level, where the Amulet of Yonder is the Bell of Opening. So I'm actually going to head down into the first level of Hell here. The first level of Hell is called the Valley of the Dead. And in the Valley of the Dead, there are several graveyards. In a normal run, we would waste like 30 minutes here, but we're not going to do that today. We're just going to try and get in and get out. But my goal here is to actually try and lure out some Wraiths. Now, Wraiths are a D&D monster, as you might expect, but in NetHack, they drop a corpse. They drop a corpse that actually allows you to gain a level. So that's the most remarkable thing about them. Otherwise, they just drain your levels, which is kind of like vampires, I guess. But this Wraith seems to be escaping me for a moment here, but if I can track him down and then eat his corpse, I'll be able to gain level. Okay, welcome to experience level 12. Great. So it seems I have 2 more potions of gain level. I'm going to drink... I don't know if one of them is cursed or not. Cursed potion of gain level won't do what I want it to do. It'll actually make me gain a dungeon level and pop me up to the next level. So kind of a little pun by the developers there, but it seems to be uncursed, and we drink both of them. Welcome to experience level 14, and now we are worthy of entering the quest. We should be accepted here. But first I'm going to make some wishes. We wish for 3 holy charging, and that's short for 3 scrolls of charging. That'll let me recharge the Wand of Wishing and get a few more wishes out of it. So it only comes with 1 to 3 charges, and normally that would be 1 to 3 wishes unless I recharge the wand. And I also wish for a marker, another pretty seemingly mundane item, but it can actually write magic scrolls. And I write a cursed scroll of genocide to create gray dragons. Now, the way that a scroll of genocide works, it works kind of like the genocide that we saw earlier on the throne, except the scroll can be cursed, blessed, or uncursed, and a cursed scroll of genocide won't work the way you want it to. It will actually send in monsters of your choice, but we take advantage of that and we try to send in some gray dragons. But none of the gray dragons dropped any dragon scales when we killed it. We would like to wear dragon scales. That's really, really good armor. But that's okay. We can pick it up later in the run. That's not a problem at all. Just a little bit of bad RNG. Alright, so looking for the magic portal to the quest. It should be magenta carrot somewhere here. There was a message there, easy to miss. You again sense the Norn pleading for help. So the Norn is kind of like the chief of the Valkyries. The person that you need to talk to get accepted to the quest. Okay, so here's the first quest level. We're allowed in here, but if we weren't level 14, we couldn't go any deeper. But now that we're level 14, we can actually get in. So the quest and nemesis, the person who we want to fight, he's actually beefed up fire giant, Magenta H, Lord Surtur. He can be fairly dangerous to us if we're not careful. So we'll see how we end up dealing with him on this run. But we should have enough. We should have enough to fight him. Looks like I'm trying to get a fire resistance here. And the fire ant corpses, whenever I eat them, actually have a chance of giving me fire resistance. And fire resistance is fairly important because if I don't have it, then if I step into lava, I will actually die instantly. So kind of a safety strat to get it here. Also, if you don't remember, one of the big areas in this game is hell. So not having fire resistance in hell, a pretty bad idea. That one needs no explanation. So this is one of the filler levels. It's just a lot of ice and some more fire ants, but we should be down to the lair of Lord Surtur fairly soon. A lot of these levels have quite a bit of dangerous lava, so best to take it slow and not walk into the lava. Even if I have fire resistance, I won't die whenever I walk into the lava, but if I do, it kind of acts like quicksand. It'll pull me in. Here we go. Here's one of the lava-infested levels right here. Just selecting the stairs and running to it as quickly as possible, ignoring most of the loot there. We don't have time for that right now, especially after we have the Wand of Wishing. We can get a lot of the loot ourselves. A lot of the loot collection in the early game is to save wishes on that Wand of Wishing. So there's Lord Surtur. You can see him in the center of that building there. And you can see a little blue, light blue, left parentheses under him. That's the Orb of Fate, the orb that Odin uses to see the future, and also he's carrying the Bell of Opening. Right, so he needs to be killed. And he seems to have disappeared there, but he's not actually gone. He came back and he hit me for about half my health. So I'm in a bit of trouble here, looking through my inventory to see what my options are. I don't have anything good to scare him away with, so we hit him another couple times and he teleports away again. Still not dead. Whenever some of these guys get hit, they'll teleport to the upstairs, some of the boss monsters, so this can be troublesome, but we can float over the lava and he won't pursue us in the lava, even though he is fire resistant himself, because he'll sink in and die, of course. So he's gonna chill over there on the bank while we recover all of our health, and we're gonna make our way back to him and kill him in a few hits. There we go. So that fight didn't turn out to be too bad. If we didn't have levitation, though, we might have been toast there, because it's pretty much impossible. It's pretty much impossible for us to kill him without us sitting on the upstairs, so you can't escape. So we would have to come up with a more creative solution, but, you know, this time we turned out alright. So I go talk to the Norn, and she congratulates me on my epic accomplishment. And we got the Orb of Fate, the Valkyrie Quest artifact, and we also got the Bell of Opening. So that's one of 3 items. One of 3 items to get the Amulet of Yonder. Alright, so what the Orb of Fate actually does, the Orb of Fate is a pretty useful artifact. It's extremely heavy, but it halves all damage done to us, essentially doubling our HP. It also allows us to level teleport, and level teleportation is a pretty big part of the speedrun because it allows us to go to whatever level we want as long as it's in the same branch. So that allows us to skip a lot of things, as you might imagine. And we want to use that especially in Gehenna or Hell. We want to use that there because, like I said, a lot of the levels are mazes. We don't want to explore them too thoroughly because that will take lots of time. It often takes hours and hours and hours of exploration, but hopefully we can skip lots of that and ascend quickly today. So yeah, we've done all we can do in the main dungeon actually, so time to go to Hell. We were already there briefly before, but like I said, the first level is a special level. So the Valley of the Dead. It has several graveyards in it, tons of loot that we won't get to today. Oh, it looks like I just dug into a swamp. Those semicolons are sea monsters and extremely dangerous. If they land a melee attack on me, they can drag you in and drown you, and killing you instantly. So best avoided. There are several ways of dealing with them though, so don't worry, we are safe. But very much a newbie trap in my opinion. A trap for the inattentive as well. So something to be very cautious of. We also need to be careful of taking physical damage. Like I said, our armor class hasn't improved that much. It's we're at AC -2. Hopefully we can get some Dragon Scale Mail in a bit to try to improve that. Dragon Scale Mail is the best armor in the game, so that will improve our defenses slightly. We still won't be down to the -20, -25 that normal characters have, but that's okay. We'll still survive. But even with level teleportation, I chose to walk down here. I think I did some inventory management on the way, and I found some staircases, so not too much time wasted here, actually. We need to, moreover, we need to use the Orb of Fate to level teleport once we're in Hell, because like I said, we can't level teleport between branches. We can only level teleport within a certain branch. So while in Hell, you can level teleport down, and while in the dungeon, you can level teleport up and further up into the dungeon. I'm doing some more inventory management here, trying to get more holy water. I only have 1 holy water left, but that's okay because we can dip some of our potions into the water and they become water, and I can dip my water into the holy water to make more holy water. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but we have more holy water. That's the important part. We're burdened right now, actually, and that causes us to take more turns per action, so something to be worried about. It's quite a subtle and it's quite a subtle invisible effect, but it may kill you if you're not careful. Looks like I got unburdened though. We have a blessed bag of holding, which the blessed bag actually reduces weight even more than usual. But I still do need to do some last minute inventory management here. There are some items that I don't know whether they're cursed, blessed, or uncursed. So we're going to fight our way through the Valley of the Dead here. Don't worry, we're not going to loot every single chest, otherwise we'd be here all night. But there is an altar here tended by a priest of Moloch. Moloch is the evil god in this game. I skipped the intro, but he is the one who stole the Amulet of Yender, and he's the one who's keeping it at the bottom of hell. Here, there's a chill priest of Moloch here. They don't really care too much about us, even when we come back out with the treasure that their god worked so hard to collect. They don't really care. That's actually great for us. We can use this altar. We can actually buy armor. We can actually buy armor from him. We can buy temporary mapping from him too. They call it a donation, but really you're buying it. You see here a cockatrice corpse. So I killed a lowercase yellow c, one of the classic monsters of NetHack, the cockatrice. And what the cockatrice can do is the cockatrice turns people to stone whenever it touches them. And this is actually a very interesting power for us because very few monsters are immune to being turned to stone, and this includes bosses. So we can use the corpse of a cockatrice if we wield it as a weapon and swing it at our enemies. This will turn them to stone, killing them in one hit. So we can use that to skip long and protracted boss fights in certain scenarios. Unfortunately, the cockatrice corpse only lasts for a few hundred turns at best, so not a permanent solution, unfortunately. But it'll be good enough for us here because we're coming up to Vlad the Impaler, who carries the Candelabrum of Invocation. And he's dead. He's a statue. Look at that. That was so easy. Normally he would actually be quite annoying boss. He used to be a joke in the community, a running joke of people killing him while wielding food rations and tin openers and bananas and all kinds of junk. But he was apparently angry enough about the jokes, and in the latest version of NetHack, he is the second fastest monster in the game. So a very difficult fight if we got here without the cockatrice corpse, but there are also ways of creating cockatrice corpses that are available to us. For example, a cursed scroll of genocide, like the one that I used to create the gray dragons earlier, can also create cockatrices. So that's might be something that I think about later, who knows. Right, so there was very little fanfare there, but that was actually the second of the 3 items we need to unlock the final level. So those are the invocation items. The last one is carried by, some might say, the big bad of NetHack, the Wizard of Yender, a very fearsome spellcaster. He has bested many of my characters. But I think we're adequately prepared for him this time. So heading down towards the wizard's level, the wizard actually resides in a tower that penetrates through several levels of Gehenna. And it's inaccessible from the outside, so we're going to have to find a different way in. That's not very intuitive. Making a wish here for a cursed marker. So I need to write a cursed scroll of genocide, but I don't have any cursed scrolls, so I wished for a cursed marker to write cursed scrolls instead. And we make some gray dragons, and hopefully we get some gray dragon scales this time. Because look at that, a set of gray dragon scales. Okay, so the scales on their own are not that great. They only give you 3 armor. But if we wear the scales and then enchant them with a scroll of enchant armor, they fuse and become dragon scale mail, which gives 9 armor instead. It's the best armor in the game, actually. Here we are with armor class -3. We didn't improve by that much, but it's good enough. That'll be more than enough to win the game. Right, so these levels, like I said, 1 corridor tile wide maze levels. Very difficult to navigate. Exploring these normally would take us so much time that we would probably actually be here all night. But we are a Valkyrie, so we have the Orb of Fate, and in addition to all the powers that the Orb of Fate gives us, like reducing the damage that we take and allowing us to level teleport. It also acts as its normal base item, which is a crystal ball. And looking into a crystal ball, we can discern the location of dungeon features like the stairs up and the stairs down. This is a fairly recent feature, actually. NetHack was created in 1987, but it's still being developed today. That feature was added earlier in 2020, so it's kind of crazy to think about. Yeah, NetHack, one of the oldest games still being developed. But that was one of the demon lord lairs there, the lair of Orcus, and he's quite valuable to us because if you played D&D before, you know about the Wand of Orcus. But there's no artifact for the Wand of Orcus in this game, but they give Orcus a Wand of Death, and we need that. The Wand of Death does exactly what it says on the tin. It insta-kills monsters, and very few monsters are specifically immune to that, but we will want it to kill one specific monster. Most demons are going to be immune to it, but yeah, like we don't want to be zapping it willy-nilly. That would be bad for us, because once it runs out of charges, we would need to recharge it with a scroll of charging, and we only have so many of those. We can only write so many of those with our magic markers before we run out of resources, and then we'd be in trouble. But in order to get to the wizard's tower here, we need to enter one of these central chambers. You can see how close we are to the end, actually. Dungeon level 45, and like I said, the final level is probably somewhere around 50. But one of these central chambers contains a portal that lets us enter the wizard's tower. And once we're in the wizard's tower, we'll be able to kill him and obtain the Book of the Dead. This appears to be the wrong one. It had a vampire lord in it. That's unfortunate. The correct one will not have a vampire lord in it. But it appears that this is as far as we can go. So I was a little bit off on the dungeon level 50 estimate. It's a little bit shallower this time. It's also random, because the dungeon is randomly generated each time. So the maximum depth actually varies. But that level there, that was the end of the line. That's as deep as we can go without all three of the invocation items. So we need to kill the Wizard of Yender now. And then once we have all three items, we can perform a short ritual that allows us to enter the final level, Moloch's Sanctum, where the Amulet of Yender resides. So we're inside the Wizard's Tower now. I'm going to level teleport to the top using the Orb of Fate. Putting on my Ring of Teleport control first, so I can control where I level teleport to. Teleport to 38. In the central chamber there is the Wizard of Yender, and we're going to kill him. Looks like I blanked some of my scrolls by walking into the water by accident. NetHack doesn't prompt you for walking into hazards like water or lava, so... Okay, and that's the Wizard of Yender, the purple at in the middle, and he's dead. So I said that we would be saving the Wand of Death for someone in particular. It was him. He is an ordinary human and is not immune to the Wand of Death. Besides that, he's also a very fearsome spellcaster, though, so not to be underestimated. If your Wand of Death misses, you might be in for a world of hurt. But this time we were able to take him out, but that won't be the end of him just yet. So we collected the Book of the Dead off of his corpse. And you feel a strange vibration under your feet. This is where we need to perform the ritual. So for the invocation ritual, it's actually detailed by the Oracle. The Oracle of Delphi, who we left behind in an earlier level because we didn't need her advice, but she tells you how to do it. You light the candelabrum, you ring the bell, and then you read the book, and then we're in. This is the last level where the Amulet of Yender resides. If we can get the Amulet of Yender and escape the dungeon, and then after that pass the final test for demigods, then we will win the game. The first section of this is a graveyard. It has several undead, zombies, demons, and wraiths. Nothing too dangerous, but coming into here, we start to see the more dangerous monsters. Lots of white at, those are priests. And those priests can easily do upwards of 40 to 50 damage to us. We have our Ring of Conflict, though, so they're mostly busy fighting each other rather than hitting us. We get blinded there. You might have seen these numbers that are floating around, and I'm actually melee attacking them. Those are monsters, and that's our intuition telling us how dangerous they are. A little bit of a late explanation there on that, but we can sense from a distance whether the monsters are dangerous to us or not. And that's also an additional power of the Orb of Fate. It's not too useful. We don't need it to win the game at all. But just a little bit of a note in case the numbers might have confused you. Right, okay, we got the Amulet of Yendor. Just need to escape now. Note that the Amulet of Yendor disables level teleportation. So all the skipping that we've done, well, we can't do any more of that. We're going to have to walk out. But fortunately, the Orb of Fate, like I said, functions as a normal crystal ball, so we can find the stairs on levels that we previously skipped completely or haven't explored too much. There, my intelligence dropped a bit. If you remember, my intelligence was 8, and my intelligence is now 4. That's because a mind flare actually got to me through a potion of paralysis or something like that. A bit of an unlucky occurrence because my chance of using a crystal ball is dependent on my intelligence. I need an intelligence of 8 in order to use a crystal ball with 100% accuracy. And so my chance of using the crystal ball actually drops to 50% at intelligence 4. But we have a few magic markers, so that should be enough to carry us, even though we're using quite a bit more charges on the crystal ball than normal. Using my pickaxe here to dig through the maze instead of navigating it normally. But there's very little we can do to skip this portion of the game. It's quite dangerous because the Wizard of Yendor can show back up and ambush us at any time. And if we fail to kill him instantly, he can cause us all kinds of nightmares. He can even clone him. He can clone himself. He can He can completely surround us with monsters, and he has a Cybolt attack, which ignores armor class and can't be deflected in any way. I'm making some last-minute wishes here. A Blessed Grease Fixed, +2, Helm of Opposite Alignment. And the Helm of Opposite Alignment does two things. It changes us to Chaotic, and it's a little bit weird to be changing our alignment this late, you might say, but there's something called the Mysterious Force that keeps characters in Hell as long as they're carrying the amulets, and this force is stronger if you are lawful and weaker if you're chaotic. So since we want to leave as soon as possible, we want this attraction force that sucks us back down deeper into Hell as weak as possible. And the second thing it does is, well, we can actually betray the god that we've been working so hard to get immortality from this whole time. Our god promised us immortality if we brought them the Amulet of Yendor, but if we go to another god by changing our alignment, they're totally fine with that too, and they will reward us with immortality, so that's great. And why is that important? Because on the very last level of the game, the final test, the astral plane, there are 3 altars, and only one of them is to your god. So in this case, my normal god would be the lawful god, and I would have to sacrifice the amulet onto there. But if I have the Helm of Opposite Alignment, there's another altar that I could potentially sacrifice the amulet on and win the game, betraying my original god, but still considered a win by NetHack. This is the lair of Jubilex. There's all kinds of demon lords. There's all kinds of demon lords here. There's also devils here. And to someone who's played D&D, that might not make too much sense. because demons and devils, lawful and chaotic, they don't really get along. But here in NetHack, they're all buddy-buddy, and they all love each other, and they all chill here in hell. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but they hardly interact with each other, so that's probably fine. But right now, I'm not wearing my Ring of Conflict. I'm just wearing my Ring of Levitation. Because I haven't explored these levels yet, and potentially there are holes that might open up under me, or trapdoors or stuff like that, so best to levitate over those. And the Ring of Conflict, while it's very powerful, it takes additional nutrition from me, so I would have to eat more food rations in order to stay not hungry. But there was Asmodeus, and we gave Asmodeus some of our spare pocket change, and he laughs maniacally and leaves. NetHack, the lawful demon lords, or the devils, they will ask a bribe from you that is based on the percentage of your visible gold. They don't know how much gold you have in your bag, so however much gold you have in main inventory, they're going to offer a bribe based on that, and that can be as low as 1 penny. So yeah, we gave him some of our pocket change. I'm not sure how much that was, but it wasn't a meaningful amount by any means. We have nothing to do with gold. We have no reason to mess with gold right now. We should be coming pretty close to... Okay, this is the Valley of the Dead again, but now that we're in the Valley of the Dead, we are free of the mysterious forest, and we have one goal now, to get back to dungeon level 1. But I started turning to slime there from a green slime, but we zap fire at ourselves and burn it away. That's another delay, what NetHack calls a delayed insta-death. And if I don't cure it in 5 turns, then I do die, and then the run ends. So... very dangerous message to look out for. I actually have that defined in my options file to stop the game for a minute whenever that happens. Might lose a little bit of time, but it's better than missing the message completely. But we're looking great on time here, actually. 55 minutes, and is still escaping the dungeon. It's not going to be sub 1 hour. Sub 1 hour is actually very difficult in NetHack. You need extraordinary luck, something like an early Wand of Wishing, to probably manage that. I've only done it a few times myself. Most of my runs fall somewhere between an hour and 30 minutes and an hour. But there are also maze levels above Hell. We just mostly dug through these, but we'll be skipping them now. The maze levels only spawn between Medusa's level and the castle, and we're back at Medusa's level, and that green @ sign was Medusa, and she can turn us to stone in 1 hit if we didn't have the Shield of Reflection, of course, which would reflect her gaze back at her. But we leave her sleeping this time. She doesn't get to see anything. She's not too important in our run, because normally she guards a statue that can contain a Shield of Reflection, but we already have one. So that's totally alright. But many of these levels have been skipped, like I said. There are several places here where it seems like the level is mapping itself, and I'm taking a bit of advantage of that. That's the little bit of power that we can get from the Amulet of Yender. It has very few other effects for us, but it does occasionally map large swaths of the dungeon. It didn't matter too much whenever we were in Hell, because I was using the Orb of Fate to find the stairs, but now my intelligence is only 3. I lost another point from a Mind Flare, so I'm going to need to be very careful here. because at intelligence level 3, we're actually skirting the edge of danger, and if we lose another point, we could die. Die from being brainless, our intelligence being too low. So I'd like to fix that problem before we go any further. That would be optimal. It's not strictly necessary, of course, but another one of those race strategies. Another mind flare attacking me. It can potentially drain my intelligence, but my helm blocked all the attacks and I was able to kill it with a wand of death. So yeah, no more close calls for us. We need to... I'm heading back down here, so like I said, safety strats. So heading down to this altar. So one way we can get our stats back is by entreating our god and asking for help. We interacted with this altar earlier to get holy water, but there's actually a lot of things you can do with altars. So altars can, if you sacrifice enough corpses, your god can give you a gift, and as you sacrifice even more corpses, your luck will increase to the point where your god will crown you as their champion and give you a special artifact based on your alignment, and all sorts of things can happen. But whenever you pray on an altar, you have an increased chance for benefits like restoring your stats or gaining more armor class and things like that. We don't have time to mess with that, but we will be doing it just this once to try and get some of our intelligence back before the final run to dungeon level 1 and the elemental planes that await after that. So yeah, after we escape the dungeon with the Amulet of Yender, the game is not quite over yet. We still have the final test to would-be demigods and demigoddesses. They are the elemental planes, 4 planes: plane of earth, plane of air, plane of fire, and the plane of water. And they all test your resistances at on each plane essentially. They have several elementals of each kind on them, and to cross each of them, you need to do something. You need to do something different, employ some different strategies. But first, let me get my intelligence back, and then we can actually talk about moving on with the game. Okay, you feel in good health again. You are surrounded by a golden glow. That's great. That means we just got our intelligence back, back at intelligence 8. So we can continue our last run up the dungeon. This is the last time we'll be seeing the dungeon. Whenever we leave, the entire dungeon is destroyed. So we will never see this place again. I'm still on dungeon level 9. I'm moving to the wrong stairs because auto travel can't pick between the upstairs sometimes. But we managed to get the right one, and dungeon level 5. 4, 3, 2, 1. So going up the stairs that we came in, beware, there will be no return. Still climb, yes! Prove thyself worthy or perish. And the Wizard of Yender reappears to harass us one last time. Maybe not, maybe he can still come back after this, so maybe not one last time, we'll see. But this is the plane of Earth. It's filled to the brim with rock, and if you're not something that can phase through rock, or you have no way of digging through rock, you can't move anywhere. The Wizard of Yender is very kind to us. He happened to be carrying a spellbook of Dig, but we are quite stupid at Intelligence 8 even, and we won't be able to cast that. We have Wands of Digging though, so an easy escape for us. We cleave straight through the rock into the magic portal to the next level, the Plane of Air. The Plane of Air is quite dangerous. It has no ground, so we need to be levitating. Just put on my Ring of Levitation. It has air elementals, which can be very damaging, but we skirt right past them. Onto the Plane of Fire. This plane has exceptional amounts of battle spam because of the number of fire-resistant monsters here and the fact that the area is littered in fire traps, so there's a lot of messages about nothing happening. Just don't worry about it. I am not reading those either. And we make it through to the plane of water. The plane of water has many sea monsters. It's completely filled with water, but there are several air bubbles in which you can stay inside to keep from getting wet. Need to avoid being drowned by the sea monsters while looking for the bubble with the portal inside. But this is the last of the elemental planes. After we clear this level, we will enter the astral plane, the final test. Easily the hardest level in the game, NetHack's epic finale in a sense. And here we are. I wish I had telepathy so I could show you all the stuff that is going on here. We got tons of angels, we have player monsters with similar equipment to us, and we have the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. But if we could see them, we would only see 3. That's because the 4th horseman is you. But we just killed one of the horsemen. That was Famine. And the horsemen are the strongest monsters in the game, quite easily. They deal 8d8 damage twice. I'll leave that to the viewers to figure out how much the average damage that is. And they also have a special effect based on who they are. So Famine has an effect that makes you significantly more hungry if he manages to land an attack. So very dangerous for me because I was hungry there, and if he managed to land one of his attacks, then I would have fainted from hunger right on the spot. But we make it through to the first altar. There's a high altar to tier lawful here. That's great. So we're chaotic right now, but we're going to uncurse the helm of opposite alignment. Take it off. We're now lawful again. Sacrifice it to tier, our original god, and we win. NetHack game and set. Thank you so much for joining me. We just beat one of the hardest games I've ever played, and I've come a long way playing this game. But I'm happy to be able to share it with y'all, and hopefully I can share it with more people soon. But thank you for listening, and peace.